During a family cookout, she loudly quipped for all to hear that if we ever tie the knot, he'd be fortunate if I stay faithful. I remained silent, but later that evening when my uncle took me aside, his counsel transformed everything. Our family has a custom. Annually, on the final weekend of summer, we host a massive barbecue at my uncle's place. It's an all-day event with 3 generations of kin, heaps of food, and a boisterous, joyful clamor. It's a day rooted in heritage and togetherness. It's the last place you'd imagine your world crumbling, but that's precisely what occurred to me on Saturday. My name is Tom. I'm a project coordinator for a commercial building firm. I construct things, grand structures like towers, clinics, and college facilities. My role is to transform countless disordered components into one sturdy, practical edifice. I bring harmony to disarray. I believed my bond with my girlfriend, Sarah, was the most unshakable framework in my life. We'd been a couple for 2 years, sharing a home I owned for the past year. We were teammates. We had a vision, marriage, children, the whole plan. It was a design I relied on. Sarah is stunning, witty, and the spark of any gathering. She has a rebellious edge that I found thrilling. It complemented my more reserved, organized personality, or so I convinced myself. My family cherished her. They adored her vibrancy and her tailies. She blended in effortlessly. Saturday was an idyllic late summer day. The cookout was in full swing. My cousins were tossing a football, the children were darting through sprinklers, and the grown-ups were clustered on the patio, chuckling and sipping beer. I was at the barbecue, flipping patties, feeling utterly at peace. Sarah was captivating a group of my female cousins and my aunt. They were discussing a recent celebrity nuptial, and the talk shifted to our own intentions. I could hear them from the grill, only half attuned. Then my cousin asked, "So when are you two going to make it official?" That's when Sarah dropped the bombshell. She let out a boisterous, dramatic laugh that turned heads. "Oh heavens, I'm not sure," she said, her voice echoing across the patio. "If we ever wed, he'll be lucky if I don't stray." The chatter on the patio fell silent. The conversation halted. In the abrupt quiet, the only sounds were the hiss of the patties on the grill and the distant squeals of the kids. I didn't turn around. I stood there, spatula in hand, fixated on the sear marks on a burger. She tried to brush it off as a jest. "I'm joking," she said, laughing again, but this time it sounded strained and fragile. "Mostly." A few people offered a feeble, uneasy chuckle. The discussion gradually, awkwardly resumed, but the atmosphere was shattered. The flawless summer day now had a shadow looming over it. I stayed mute. I didn't glance at her. I didn't utter a word. I just kept grilling, my actions steady and deliberate. Inside, a tempest was brewing. It wasn't just the insult. It was the public spectacle of it. She hadn't merely disrespected me. She had proclaimed to my whole family that our relationship was a farce to her, that my devotion was something she viewed as dispensable. I served the meal. I sat with my kin. I conversed and laughed, pretending I hadn't just heard the woman I loved obliterate the bedrock of our life. Sarah kept casting me fleeting glances, trying to read my reaction. I offered her nothing. I was an impassive barrier. Later that night, as the gathering wound down and people began to depart, my Uncle Frank pulled me aside. Frank, my father's elder brother, is a retired police officer, a man who has witnessed humanity's highs and lows. He speaks sparingly, but when he does, you heed him. He guided me to the edge of the lawn, away from the ticky lights and lingering guests. He looked me in the eye, his expression grave. "I heard what she said," he said, his voice a deep murmur. I just nodded. "You're a good man, Tom," he went on. "You're dependable, you build things to endure. That woman, she's not crafted the same way. She's all dazzle, no substance." He paused, glancing back at the party where Sarah was now chatting with my aunt as if nothing had occurred. "You're furious," he said. It wasn't a question. "You want to go home and confront her. You want to shout and argue, maybe even end it tonight." He was spot on. That's exactly what I craved. "Don't," he said, his tone resolute. "That's what she anticipates. That's the drama she wants to play. A big, theatrical row where she can weep, apologize, and call it a foolish jest, and you'll forgive her because you love her. And then she'll know she can get away with it. She'll know she can disrespect you. And the only fallout is a bit of theatrics." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "A woman who jests about infidelity isn't jesting. She's floating a test balloon. She's probing your limits. She's telling you precisely who she is. The gravest error you can make is not taking her at her word." "So what do I do?" I asked. His guidance was straightforward but shifted everything. "You do nothing," he said. "You go home, you act like all is well. You let her think she escaped unscathed. You let her relax. And while she's relaxed, you get wise. You find out if that test balloon she floated is the only one or if there's a whole armada you're unaware of. Don't get emotional. Gather facts. People like her. They don't dread anger. They dread being unmasked. You want to end it? Fine, but don't end it on her terms. End it on yours. Ensure when you walk away, she grasps exactly what she lost and why. I looked at my uncle and understood. He wasn't advising me to be weak. He was urging me to be tactical. He was providing a new plan. The old one with marriage and children was gone. The new one was for a dismantling, a silent, meticulous, and thorough dismantling. I returned to the party, smiled at my girlfriend, and began strategizing. Update 1. It's been a week since the cookout. A week of acting the forgiving partner and a week of systematic, quiet investigation. My Uncle Frank's wisdom has been my compass. Don't get emotional, gather facts. On the drive home from the barbecue, Sarah finally broached the incident. "Are you upset with me?" she asked, her voice soft and hesitant. I glanced at her. "About what? You know, the quip I made, it was dumb. I was just trying to be amusing. My humor's a bit edgy sometimes." I just shrugged. "It's fine," I said. "I understand." The relief on her face was evident. She thought she was in the clear. She thought my silence at the gathering was just me being sullen. She had no clue it was me rethinking the entire project. For the next few days, she was the model girlfriend. She was warm, attentive, and avoided any more quips. She thought she'd tested a boundary and I'd accepted it. She was at ease. While she was at ease, I was working. My first step was to gauge the extent of the issue. Was her remark a one-off blunder or a sign of a deeper problem? I began with her phone. We had an open policy with our devices. We knew each other's passcodes. It was a cornerstone of trust that she, it turned out, didn't deserve. I waited until she was asleep and examined it. I wasn't searching for a blatant betrayal. I was looking for patterns. I didn't find explicit messages from other men. She was too clever for that, but I found something more revealing. I found a pattern of erasure. Her text threads with certain male friends were oddly pristine. There were gaps in the exchanges, missing days. Her call logs showed calls to these numbers, but the related texts were gone. Someone with nothing to conceal doesn't meticulously purge their conversations. The most intriguing discovery was a group chat with her 3 closest friends, dubbed the Freedom Squad. I scrolled back months. It was a continuous commentary on their lives, relationships, and future plans, and it was a treasure trove. They discussed me, frequently. They called me the overseer or Mr. Reliable. They mocked my mundane life, my predictable routine. Sarah's posts were the most incriminating. She griped about feeling confined. She spoke of craving more thrill. And then I found the exchange from the day before the barbecue. One friend asked if she was truly ready to settle down with me. Sarah's reply, "God, no, but the arrangement is too convenient to abandon now. He's a solid fallback while I figure out what I truly want. And what I want isn't a guy who spends weekends setting up a new irrigation system." Another friend responded, "You need to be cautious. He's not stupid. What if he catches on?" Sarah's reply chilled me. "He won't. He trusts me implicitly. I could probably be unfaithful, and as long as I smiled and said I loved him, he'd believe me. He's just lucky I haven't bothered yet." There it was. The quip from the barbecue wasn't a quip. It was a reworded version of her true sentiments. It was a test, as my uncle had said. She was probing, seeing how much disrespect I'd tolerate. I took screenshots of the entire chat. I saved them to a secure cloud account. That was my evidence. Now I needed a strategy for revelation. The chance came 2 days later. Sarah came home elated. Her best friend, the one who'd asked if she was ready to settle, was engaged. Her fiancé had proposed during a Paris trip. They were hosting a grand engagement bash in 3 weeks at a downtown hotel. "It's going to be spectacular," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming. "Everyone will be there. We need to get you a new suit." A party, a lavish, high-profile party filled with her friends and the people she aimed to impress. The setting was ideal. I spent the next week preparing. I continued playing the devoted boyfriend. I helped her choose a dress for the event. I scheduled a fitting for a new suit. I listened to her ramble about the engagement, Paris, and the size of her friend's ring. Meanwhile, I was making my own arrangements. I reached out to the event coordinator, someone my company had collaborated with on corporate events. I told her I wanted to create a special tribute for the newly engaged couple. I proposed a slideshow of their photos to play on the big screens at the party. She thought it was a charming idea and provided the technical specs for the video file. I spent hours assembling the video. It began innocently. Images of the happy couple, photos with their friends including Sarah. I even included a few pictures of Sarah and me, smiling, looking like the perfect pair. But the final 30 seconds were different. They featured the screenshots from her group chat, set to scroll slowly across the screen, her words in large, undeniable letters, accompanied by a gentle, romantic piano melody. He's a solid fallback while I figure out what I truly want. He trusts me implicitly. He's just lucky I haven't bothered to cheat yet. The video was complete. The stage was set. All I had to do was wait for the performance. Sarah thought the party was about her friend. She had no idea it was about to be her final act. Update 2. The night of the engagement party felt like the stillness before a storm. I wasn't anxious. I was resolute. I had a task to complete, a structure to dismantle, and I had the right tools. We arrived at the hotel ballroom, and it was as Sarah had described. A sea of costly gowns, tailored suits, and the subtle buzz of self-important people. Sarah was in her element, flitting between groups, laughing and exchanging air kisses, pulling me along like a dutiful prop. I smiled, nodded, and played my role. I found the event coordinator and handed her the thumb drive with the video file. "It's all ready," I told her. "Just play it after the bride's father's toast." She gave me a thumbs up and vanished into the control booth. An hour into the party, the toasts began. The bride's father gave an emotional speech. The groom's best man shared some humorous anecdotes. Then the groom spoke, delivering a heartfelt ode to his fiancée, Sarah's best friend. As he finished, the ballroom lights dimmed. The event coordinator's voice came over the speakers. "And now, a special tribute from a close friend, a look back at cherished memories." The soft piano music began. The slideshow started. I stood beside Sarah near the back of the room. She squeezed my arm, a genuine smile on her face. "This is so thoughtful," she whispered. The first few minutes were flawless. Images of the couple flashed on the 3 large screens. Guests smiled, some wiping tears. Then the music swelled and the final 30 seconds began. The first screenshot appeared. "He's a solid fallback while I figure out what I truly want." Sarah's grip on my arm stiffened. Her smile froze. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice a choked gasp. The next screenshot appeared. "He trusts me implicitly." A murmur spread through the room as people read the words. Guests turned, looking from the screens to Sarah, their faces shifting from joy to stunned confusion. Then the final screenshot from the barbecue filled the screens. "He's just lucky I haven't bothered to cheat yet." The room fell silent. The only sound was the faint piano melody, now sounding like a mournful elegy. The video ended. The screens went dark. The lights returned. In that brightly lit, silent ballroom, every eye was on Sarah. Her face was a mask of sheer, horrified disbelief. Her friends, the Freedom Squad, stared at her, their faces pale with shock and growing dread. They were exposed too. I turned to her. The vibrant, confident woman I'd been with for 2 years was gone. In her place was a stranger, stripped of her lies, standing in the ruins of her own making. I leaned in, my voice a soft whisper only she could hear. "The jest isn't amusing anymore, is it?" I didn't wait for a reply. I stepped back, turned, and walked out of the ballroom. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. I walked steadily, leaving the chaos behind. As the ballroom doors closed, I heard the first sounds of the aftermath. A woman sobbing, a man shouting. The storm had broken. My Uncle Frank was waiting in the hotel lobby. I'd called him earlier and told him my plan. He'd nodded and said, "I'll be there." He stood as I approached. He didn't ask how it went. He just looked at me, a small, proud smile on his face. "Let's grab a beer," he said. "You look like a man who just walked out of a cage." And he was right. I was free. Final update. 6 months have passed since the engagement party. The dismantling is complete, and I've spent the time since clearing the rubble and starting anew. The final chapter isn't about drama or retribution. It's about consequences and the quiet satisfaction of moving forward. The aftermath of that night was swift and total. The engagement party ended in disarray. Sarah had a complete breakdown. Her friends, the Freedom Squad, were caught in the fallout. The bride-to-be, her supposed best friend, was livid that her perfect night was ruined. Their friendship, I hear, is over. Sarah's social circle collapsed. The story spread like wildfire through her network. The evidence was irrefutable. She wasn't the victim. She was the orchestrator of her own disgrace. The friends she'd worked so hard to impress saw her for what she was. A manipulator who viewed relationships as temporary conveniences. They deserted her. She tried to mount a defense naturally. She claimed I was unhinged, that I'd fabricated the screenshots, that I was a controlling tyrant. But it didn't work. My reputation was solid, and her own words, displayed for all to see, were too damning. She lost her job. The groom from the party, her friend's fiancé, was a partner at the marketing firm where she worked. He didn't fire her outright. He didn't need to. The workplace became so hostile, filled with whispers and sidelong glances that she had to resign. She had to move out of my house, of course. I'd already packed her belongings. She sent her father to retrieve them. I wasn't there. I left the boxes in the garage. Her father, a man I'd always respected, couldn't meet my eyes when I saw him briefly weeks later. The shame was too heavy. She now lives in a small apartment across town. She's working a low-level job trying to rebuild. She has no friends, no partner, and a reputation that will haunt her for years. I received one message from her 2 months ago. It was a lengthy, disjointed email, a mix of apologies, accusations, and self-pity. She wrote that the barbecue remark was her life's greatest mistake. She claimed she didn't mean it, that she was just trying to seem aloof and trendy. She wrote that my uncle was a harsh old man for giving me that advice. That line showed she still didn't understand. She was still pointing fingers, blaming her quip, blaming my uncle, blaming everyone but herself. I deleted the email without responding. My life is good. It's calm. It's steady. I've been spending time with my family, the people who form my true foundation. My Uncle Frank and I go fishing every other weekend. We don't discuss what happened, but we don't need to. He just claps my shoulder and says, "You did well, kid." The revenge wasn't the slideshow. It wasn't the public shaming. The real revenge was believing her. She showed me who she was with that barbecue quip. My uncle's advice wasn't about vengeance. It was about self-worth. He told me to take her at her word, and I did. I acted accordingly. She thought she was playing a game. A game where she could have my stability while keeping her options open. She didn't realize that for me, commitment isn't a game. It's a structure. It's a vow. And when you prove your vows are worthless, I don't get angry. I just dismantle the structure and start anew on solid ground. And the new foundation I'm building is stronger than ever.